In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I'm your co-host, co-chair, Matthew Bray, Executive Director of the Muslim American Society. Glad to be here. And right now, I'd like to introduce, coming from North Carolina, the Director of the Muslim American Society Freedom Foundation, Chapter of North Carolina, Sister Khalila Sabri!
Hello, everybody. I want to tell you something about an army that stands for justice. The army that changes oppression to democracy does not wear uniforms or call in airstrikes on a high military budget. The army that changes oppression to democracy does battle quietly with dialogue and negotiation. They feed the poor and vaccinate the sick children. The army that changes oppression to democracy undermines lobbyists with special interests, and it returns power to the people with no strings attached. The army that changes oppression to democracy will not be led by leaders who will tell you that the cities are filled with vicious terrorists who wish to destabilize the government while asking you to ignore the places filled with children with severed body parts, homeless and helpless men and women, because the graveyards of Baghdad have become landfills of dead Iraqi citizens. The army that changes oppression to democracy will tell the Americans do not feel weak or powerless to change the direction of your government because you can. By changing your leaders, you will change the leadership, replacing all those who promised Iraqis a nightmare, a dream, and all they gave them was a nightmare. And if they don't feel remorse about the votes that have blown away babies, they will at least regret that they are no longer employed by us who pay their salaries. By doing this, you will teach your children a valuable lesson, that it is wrong to monopolize and steal what does not belong to you. If you do not act and act now, we will be dragged into future wars where men seek to possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without insight or decency. And that ability without honor is a pitiful attribute. Cicero said that the life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living. If not, then it should be. Free the people of Iraq and change the destiny of America. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Letwin from New York City Labor Against the War.
Brothers and sisters, this is a beautiful day, isn't it? It's not too cold, is it? Brothers and sisters, despite overwhelming rejection of its policies in the November elections, the Bush administration is actually escalating the war, not only in Iraq, but throughout the Middle East. And this has meant not only ordering thousands of troops to Iraq, but to Afghanistan, to arming and financing Israel's attacks on Lebanon last summer, and its increasingly brutal oppression of the Palestinians. It means launching a proxy war, an invasion of Somalia, and threatening to attack and wage war on Iran and Syria. And as in all wars of conquest, ordinary people pay the price. In Iraq alone, this war for oil and empire has killed at least 650,000 Iraqis, has killed and maimed 50,000 U.S. troops. It's promoted civil war. It's cost $1.2 trillion, and there's no end in sight. Meanwhile, at home, the administration continues to attack civil liberties. It continues to attack the Arab Muslim community. It continues to attack undocumented immigrants, Katrina refugees, people of color, veterans in Walter Reed, that cesspool that they send veterans to and then talk about supporting the troops. Yet, brothers and sisters, this is a bipartisan war. And as a willing accomplice, the Democratic Party cannot be trusted to end it. Even now, most politicians refuse to cut off funding for the occupation of Iraq, let alone to end the war as a whole. But history shows that the U.S. got out of Vietnam due to tenacious Vietnamese resistance and to the mass anti-war movement, especially among GIs. And that's why it's so important today that we have Iraq veterans against the war. We have Vietnam veterans against the war. We have veterans for peace, because they brought that war to an end, and the GIs will bring it to an end today, along with the resistance in Iraq. So this movement today, this brilliant anti-war movement, to be effective, must be led by those with the strongest need and the greatest power to end the war. GIs, veterans, workers, people of color, immigrants. It must oppose the entire war and demand justice at home and abroad. Thank you very much.